20th century, a woman named Tara Brooks lived in London. She worked at a brothel, and when she became pregnant, she hoped her child might have a better life than she did. But one night, as she went into labor, a doctor was summoned to help deliver the baby. That doctor was no man at all. He was Deacon Frost, a vampire masquerading among the living. As Tara struggled through childbirth, Frost sank his fangs into her throat, draining her as her son entered the world. In those final, agonizing moments, the vampire's venom mixed with her blood, crossing into the newborn infant. Tara died, and her son, Eric Brooks, took his first breath as his mother's heart took its last. He was found crying next to her body. The women of the brothel raised him, feeding him, cleaning him, trying to give him what little care they could. As he grew, the women noticed he was different. His eyes were sharper, his senses keener. He never seemed to get sick. He could hear things no one else could, smell fear, and see in the dark. But the strangest thing of all was that he didn't fear the sun. He seemed to welcome it. They whispered that the boy was touched by the devil. Eric grew up in the shadow of that mystery, unaware of the monster that had created him. When he was 9, fate placed him on the path that would define his life. A vampire attacked one of the women from the brothel, and a man named Jamal Afari, a seasoned vampire hunter and jazz musician, came to her aid. Afari killed the creature with a stake, and young Eric saw the act. For the first time, he saw what kind of monster had murdered his mother. He begged Afari to teach him how to fight monsters. Seeing the fire in the boy's eyes, Afari agreed. Under Afari's guidance, Eric learned to fight, to stalk, to kill. He trained in hand-to-hand combat, mastered knives, stakes, and blades. He learned to track the undead, to fight with deadly precision. His mentor discovered that Eric aged slowly and was stronger than any ordinary man. When he asked how, Eric could only answer that he didn't know. Not yet. For years, they hunted together. Afari became the father Eric never had. A father and son forged in battle, but tragedy was stalking them. Deacon Frost, the vampire who started it all, returned. The vampire who had killed Eric's mother tracked them down. In a final, cruel act, Frost attacked Afari, turned him into a vampire, and forced Eric to kill the only father he'd ever known, the man who had raised him. That night, something inside Eric broke. He swore vengeance not just on Frost, but on every single vampire that walked the earth. From that moment, he became the hunter, the blade that strikes back. In time, he earned that name literally. He favored knives, swords, and stakes, weapons that could cut through vampire flesh and bone. The vampire underworld began to whisper of him, the man who walked by day, the one with blood that burned vampires on contact. They called him the Daywalker. He called himself Blade. Blade's word became legendary, died over the years. Blade's skills grew. He traveled the world hunting vampires and monsters. He fought Dracula himself, not once but several times. Dracula was older, stronger, and nearly immortal, but Blade's unique physiology made him resistant to Dracula's powers. Their battles were brutal. The hunter and the king of vampires locked in eternal opposition. They fought again and again, the ancient lord of the undead against the relentless hunter. Blade learned to fight with relentless precision, using his hybrid strength, endurance, and training to level the field against beings far more ancient than himself. It was an eternal battle, the hunter versus the king. He wasn't always alone. At some point, Blade crossed paths with the secret order of vampire hunters known as the Night Stalkers, a team that included Hannibal King, a vampire who refused to feed on humans, and Frank Drake, a descendant of Dracula himself. They waged war on vampire covens across the globe. Together, they waged war on vampire covens across the globe. Blade was ruthless, often too violent even for his allies, but they needed him. He had the instincts of a predator and the unwavering will of a man. For a while, the Night Stalkers managed to hold back the tide of the undead, but Blade carried a secret burden that none of them could share. The vampiric enzymes in his blood grew stronger over time, and with them, bringing with it an ever-present gnawing hunger for human blood, he refused to give in. With help from allies in S.H.I.E.L.D. and other scientists, Blade developed a serum, an artificial fluid that could suppress his thirst without harming others. It burned like fire when injected, but it gave him control. As long as he had it, he could remain what he was, half man, half monster, entirely his own master. His war against vampires led him into encounters with countless supernatural beings. Morbius, the living vampire, whom he fought and later sometimes allied with, Lilith, the mother of demons, and the Blood Shadows, cultists who sought to use vampire blood for power. He fought alongside Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, and Hellstorm, forming a loose alliance known as the Midnight Suns. Together, they became humanity's first and last line of defense against occult threats that the rest of the world refused to see. His weapons were as iconic as the man himself: silver-forged swords, garlic-laced stakes, and gear that bathed the undead in ultraviolet light. In the modern age, Blade resurfaced as vampires began to multiply once more, no longer hiding in the shadows, but gathering armies. He uncovered networks of vampire lords controlling corporations, governments, and even black ops divisions within nations. He hunted them all. His methods were efficient: infiltration, decapitation, annihilation. But the more he killed, the more isolated he became. Blade was feared even by those he protected. People saw him as something between savior and monster out in time. The Avengers took notice. Captain America, recognizing Blade's skill and courage, recruited him into a temporary alliance to combat supernatural incursions. Fighting alongside the Avengers brought Blade into contact with a wider world of heroes: Iron Man, Black Panther, Thor. He never truly fit in, but he was always there when the world needed a monster to fight other monsters. Deacon Frost returned again and again over the decades, sometimes resurrected, sometimes cloned, always the same face that haunted Blade's dreams. In one confrontation, Frost created doppelgangers of Blade, feeding them his own blood to corrupt the hunter's image. Blade destroyed them all and finally impaled Frost, ending his existence, at least for a time. Yet, the war is never over. The vampire threat never ended. Dracula's descendants spread across continents. The Blood Plague, a vampiric virus, began infecting humans. Blade found himself not just a hunter, but an enforcer. When vampires declared sovereignty and formed their own nation under Dracula's rule, Blade was appointed as its sheriff, a position he accepted only to keep them under control. It was a cruel irony. The Daywalker, sworn enemy of vampires, to ensure no vampire crossed the line again. Blade has outlived almost everyone he's ever cared for. His mentor, lovers, and allies like Hannibal King drifted away, worn down by years of endless war. Saffron called her a woman he once loved, who left him because she could not live with his darkness. But Eric Brooks remains silent, scarred, driven. He has outlived almost all of them. His hybrid blood keeps him young as the world ages around him. He is a silent guardian, a scar protector. His half-vampire blood keeps him young while decades pass around him. He does not age like other men. He has seen cities rise and fall, watched generations forget the monsters hiding in plain sight. There are stories, alternate worlds, possible futures, where Blade finally dies. In some, he falls battling Dracula one last time, taking the lore of vampires with him into the sun. In others, he dies protecting humanity from a new breed of creatures worse than vampires. But in Marvel's Prime universe, Eric Brooks still walks the earth. He is neither dead nor at peace. He continues his war, one blade stroke at a time. And though he has saved humanity countless times, they will never know him. He doesn't fight for glory, or for thanks, or even for redemption. He fights because it's what he was made to do. He fights because it's all he knows. The boy born beside his mother as corpse became the man who made the undead fear the daylight. And as long as darkness exists, the Daywalker will rise to meet it. Thanks so much for watching. If you love deep dives into your favorite comic book characters, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video. Let us know in the comments who you want to see us cover next.